Before moving to Kolkata, I viewed the city through the lens of Rabindranath Tagore. I expected a quiet, intellectual capital, a place where every street corner felt like a page from a high art poetry collection. The reality of actually moving here is an immediate, jarring correction to that poetic dream. It starts with the language. Speaking Hindi doesn't just mark you as a visitor, it triggers a visible shift in the atmosphere. Conversations stop, and locals look at you with the kind of suspicion usually reserved for someone who just committed a public crime. Suddenly, you're not an observer. You're an outsider being analyzed by a huddle of people who seem to be discussing your very presence. This alienation has a direct financial cost. Without Bengali, you're treated like a foreign tourist in your own country. Shopkeepers will look you in the eye and try to sell a 20 rupee snack for 200. You find yourself begging to be scammed a little less, trying to negotiate your way into a price that isn't a total robbery. The historical myth of the City of Joy fades quickly. To live here, you have to abandon the Tagore-inspired daydreams and learn to navigate a city that operates on a completely unwritten, high-friction set of rules. The physical layout of the city reflects this friction. Look at these streets. It's a claustrophobic web of aging buildings and tangled wires that leave almost no room for the people living inside them. Navigating these residential alleys requires a Spider-Man technique. The lanes are so narrow that two people can't pass each other without one person flattening their back against the brickwork, effectively becoming part of the wall just to let a neighbor by. Despite this complete lack of space, massive commercial trucks and tempos still attempt to force their way into these microscopic gaps, turning a quiet residential walk into a logistical nightmare. This results in some bizarre social consequences. When a truck gets wedged in an alley late at night, the grinding metal and shouting gives that specific street a character-assassinated reputation. People start avoiding the area because of the suspicious, loud struggles echoing out of it in the dark. In Kolkata, the laws of physics seem optional. You quickly learn that no room is just a suggestion, and vehicles will fit into spaces that logic says shouldn't exist. That spatial defiance peaks at Howrah Station, the entrance to the city's local train network. The trains are a study in extreme compression. You aren't just standing in a crowd. You are physically wedged between strangers, forced to choose which commuter's armpit you'll be hovering under for the duration of the ride. Even in this suffocating mob, you'll see KTM couples, young pairs who somehow manage to carve out a tiny romantic sanctuary, oblivious to the 80 people being crushed against them from every side. The true masters of this environment are the veteran commuters. These men board trains that haven't even finished pulling into the station, vanishing into the crowd with a speed that borders on the supernatural. These veterans move with such confidence that the station announcements feel like their personal walkout music. They dodge between moving cars and leap onto platforms with a precision that suggests they're operating on a higher plane of existence. This daily commute is a Darwinian ritual. To get to work, you have to be more agile, more aggressive, or more stubborn than the 1,000 people standing in your way. The culture shock even hits the palate. These traditional white rasgullas are the standard for Bengali sweets. Simple, soft, and historic. But the modern city is obsessed with bizarre mutations. Instead of the classic, you're now finding baked rasgullas and versions served in hot tea, which feels like a betrayal of the very tradition people come here to find. Even the local street food isn't safe. At the local Puchka stands, some of the vendors have started replacing the traditional tamarind water with Thums Up soda, a sugary, carbonated crime against one of India's greatest snacks. This friction extends to the local community's biggest event, Durga Puja. Before the festival even starts, neighborhood Chanda collectors go door to door, essentially taxing residents to fund their street's display. They use a specific brand of emotional blackmail, comparing their small, underfunded Ravan effigy to the grand displays of rival neighborhoods. They'll look you in the eye and tell you that without your 50 rupees, the entire street's pride is at stake. To live here is to pay these taxes, both financial and emotional, just to participate in the neighborhood's fierce competitive spirit. After you've survived the language barriers, the overpriced snacks, the suffocating train rides, and the thumbs-up fuchka, the city starts to make sense. All of that physical and social friction, the way you have to fight for space and argue over every rupee, means you are constantly aggressively engaged with the people around you. You can't be an anonymous bystander in a city where 80 people are sharing your personal space. That shared struggle creates a community that is exceptionally loud, humorous, and protective of its traditions. This intensity is what fuels the scale of the payoff. Standing by the river at sunset, watching these massive, intricate idols being carried to the water, you realize the grandeur is only possible because of the collective, stubborn passion of the neighborhoods that built them. Kolkata is a beautifully chaotic trial. Those who navigate the cramped alleys and the humid train cars eventually earn the right to call this culture their own.